Hi folks, and welcome back to Meaningful Money. Here I am outside the little hamlet of Treen, far west of Cornwall. Beautiful view behind me. A little cove of Penberth is down there. It's where I've filmed several times before. I may even go down there in a minute. Going to talk about peer-to-peer lending today, something which sounds like it's quite modern when it's given that name, but it isn't. I'll come back to that in a minute, but which offers various advantages, either for people wanting to deposit money and get better rates, and for people wanting to borrow money if they need to do that. So as ever, before we get into that, my friends down here in the bottom right, that's 7 Investment Management. They continue to sponsor me here on Meaningful Money, and I'm very grateful to them for doing so. Right, peer-to-peer lending. That's like a fancy modern 2012 term for borrowing off your mates, really. And that's the sort of fundamental, simplest way of borrowing money, isn't it? If you want to avoid the hassles of going to a bank and being credit checked and credit scored and all things like that, and that horrible feeling when they might say no, then many people's first port of call if they need to borrow money is mum and dad very often, or to their mates or something like that. And that is peer-to-peer lending. And actually, history proves that goes back just millennia. In fact, there's something called Hammurabi's Code, which is some tablets written, they reckon, in 1750 BC or thereabouts, which lays down a code for lending practice, including capping the interest rates that could be charged on different kinds of asset. Like, people could borrow money against next year's harvest of wheat and things like that. Fascinating stuff. Worth a look. Just look up Hammurabi's Code. But 1750 BC, millennia ago, and whether that's where it started, almost certainly not. That's probably the first time it was codified. But in these days, the 2012 web-enabled world, peer-to-peer lending is done online. So I just want to explain how it works and the benefits and I shouldn't say risks, that's perhaps slightly a harsh word, but just the pros and cons of such things and how it works fundamentally, so you can understand it and look at it for yourself. How it works is this. Let's say you have 5,000 quid burning a hole in your pocket. You don't want to leave it in the bank because interest rates are just rubbish, and I'm sure you could do better than that. So you decide to look around and you find this peer-to-peer lending site. And what you would do if you are a saver, essentially, it's not really the right word because you're not saving, you are lending. You deposit that money with the peer-to-peer website. What the website will then do is lend your money out to people who want to borrow. Now, if you're a borrower, it's very much like going to a bank. You have to fill in all your details and your income and your outgoings and all things like that. You will be credit scored, you will be credit checked to make sure what your current credit rating is. See whether you've defaulted in the past, any county court judgments against you, things like that. But then, all being well, you will be lent the money. The site's job, therefore, is to match lenders to borrowers. Now, there's a couple of points which make it very attractive, I think. The first one is that, excuse me, if you are a lender, you can manage your risk, because you could, for example, say that I don't want my money to be lent out to anybody with a credit score of less than B+, say. So that means you're only going to lend to the top tier of borrowers, people with good credit scores and ratings, good credit history, and so you're reducing your risk that one of the people you borrow to is going to default. And I just alluded there to the second sort of benefit of these things, really, is that the website's job is to match you with borrowers, but what doesn't happen is that your £5,000 gets lent to one person who wants to borrow £5,000. Usually on an amount of money like that, it's quite possible that your £5,000 will be split across anything up to a couple of hundred different borrowers. So if you are a borrower, the money that you are borrowing is probably coming from a couple of hundred different lenders. And so for the lender, the chances of one of the couple of hundred people that their money has been divided between, chances of one of them defaulting and not paying back, is quite likely, but it doesn't matter because it's a very small amount of your money. Whereas if you lent it all to one person, then that's a bigger risk. So you can manage risk, firstly by setting who you are prepared to lend to, and secondly, because the site will spread your money over lots of people. So I think that's quite exciting and attractive. So check out zopa.com, zopa.com. It's the biggest of these peer-to-peer lending sites. Also check out ratesetter.com. It's an interesting one. They have a kind of a provision fund, so they will take a charge of borrowers and lenders and put that in a kind of fund and that's like a cooperative insurance pot type thing in case one of the borrowers defaults and doesn't pay the money back. It can come out of that fund, so that's quite interesting as well. Not recommending either of them, not allowed to do that here, but go check them out, and I find them quite interesting. Not something that I've dipped my toe into yet, but maybe before too long. So that's peer-to-peer lending. Just remember, if you are a lender, it's not a deposit. It doesn't have the same protections as a deposit account, as far as I'm aware anyway. So just make sure you read the small print. If you are depositing your money with Zopa or somebody like that, or RateSetter, be careful and read the small print and make sure you know what your own protections are. All right, I hope that's helpful. Leave any questions. If I can help you, then I will. And next time I'm going to talk about income tax. Fascinating, I know, but how it works, particularly with relation to the 2012-13 tax year, which starts in a week's time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.